Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by the wonderful Joan Chen to talk all about her film Didi. And starting off, Sean, who is the director of this movie and the writer, has said that this is such a love letter to relationships between sons and their mothers. And I was interested in, with that being so much of the central core of the film, how that informed the way that you started creating and shaping this character.
Um, yeah, I was very moved actually when I read the script. At his age, he gave me the script when he was 28. And I think that was the time that he matured and felt the need to say that to his mom. And it's very much based on his own relationship with his mom. Um, the the first thing I did, I mean, after we, had a couple meetings um, and I decided to take on the part. The first thing I did was that I was very curious, um, since it is based on his mom, then how his mom would be saying these lines. And some of the lines did come from the mom. And so I had Sean's mom record all the lines, and I just wanted to take a listen and see, like in the delivering of the lines, how different her version and my version would be, and to take in some of her tone and her voice. And I found that she did have slightly calmer, gentler, less forceful. Um, it's just like Chinese learning English, because we don't differentiate he and she, so I get confused. Anyway, Sean's mom, I just feel like this great forbearance and patience, that is something that I lack. Um, and that was the first step. And then when I did go on to the set, that was her house. And so she is there every day. And I could see how she decorated the place and her paintings on the wall. And then she told me about how she started painting, what painting meant for her, and then also the upbringing of Sean and Sean's sister. All of that really informed the character that I was about to play. Um, it was very helpful. It's very helpful, and I appreciated the fact that you know each scene that I am in, it does portray a different facet of her, either her background, her present situation, her aspiration, and her frustration, the pain and joy. So each scene is an opportunity to make a supporting character fuller. Yeah.
Right. She's so incredibly rich and complex in the movie. And I love what you were bringing up there in terms of the energy, because that was one of the things that really struck me in your performance was that sense of calmness and gentleness to her. And so how did you kind of step into just finding what that energy was, and how much did that inform a lot of the scenes for you?
Um, yeah, it made me reflect on my own way of bringing up my children. And I was like, oh, yeah, she had more wisdom, or it came with her personality. Um, as an older mother, I sort of made a lot of decisions based on fear. And I'm not the only mother, I'm sure, made decisions. We do carry certain fear that something might happen to our children, or that they might not um, become something, and you think the lives that go through you must somehow become something that you imagine them making a difference in the world, or the kind of expectation, the weight of hope for the entire of her life as a mother. But to look at her, she's a lot calmer. She didn't make decisions based on fear, and that that helped me. That what kind of a mother this is, different from myself. Though there are a lot of the qualities and emotional truths that I relate to, because I am an immigrant mother. Um, I brought up two American children. So, in that sense, we're the same. But I learned a great deal. You're always learning, there's no handbook for motherhood. Um, and I felt like I could do this again. Like, it's a little bit redemptive and also extremely cathartic. Um, During the shoot, I had my younger daughter who was having her summer vacation from NYU. And so she helped out on the set as one of the PAs. Um, so that way, I actually had a summer vacation with her. Otherwise, she would have much preferred to be with her friends instead of me. And so during this entire process of filming, I feel like, oh, it's Sean's love letter to his mom, but it's also my chance to say I love you very much, and I'm sorry for all the mistakes that I've made or unhappiness I brought you. It was my chance to say that to my own daughter. And also, she would sometimes be in front of the monitor, and she saw what I was doing, and she understood that how much I love this profession. And this is one thing I've learned how to do. And once you learn how to do something, you can do something, you don't want to stop. And so all the separation that they suffered as they grew up, I did take less work, but sometimes I did go off to work. And so there was a new understanding reached between myself and my younger daughter. It was just one of the best summers she and I spent together.
It's such a beautiful experience, and I love hearing the way that you describe that. And going back to something that you were also mentioning before in terms of the conversations that you had with Sean's mom and getting to talk to her about painting and what that meant to her, because it's her paintings that we see in the film for your character, which I thought was such a beautiful touch as well. What were some of the things that she shared with you in terms of what that means, and what did you feel like it meant to your character?
I think some of it is in the film. It's like the scenes where, you know, um, friends, children, they were so far ahead. Like they were preparing for the SAT, like at a very early stage, and you know, um, 4.0 or above 4.0 G, what do you call, the grades. Um, and Sean wasn't that kid. And like Chris wasn't that kid. Sean loved skating, and from skating, he loved to film skating. Wasn't, that 4.0 student in his class. And a lot of Asian moms would probably worry. And you just feel like, because we immigrated to the United States, a lot of us wanting to have a better future for their children, not necessarily for themselves, and to have a much broader horizon for their children. And so much of the expectation and their dreams and hope um, weighed on the children. Um, uh, I was um, impressed that Sean's mom had the patience, and the conviction that somehow he'll come to himself, which is something like I lacked. Um, and so Sean is where she is right now is because the mother had that wisdom and didn't say, okay, you go to after school, you got to bring your grades up, you have to do, whipping him into what he really isn't. Um, it's a yeah, it's a really wonderful mother-son relationship that they have. I am so envious of it.
It's so beautiful. And I also wanted to ask about working with Isaac Wang, who plays Chris, your son in the film, because I heard that the first scene that the two of you filmed together was when they get into an argument in the car in that scene. And that's such a complex scene. There's so much happening. How did filming that scene first really set the space of that relationship for the whole film with you two?
Yeah, in the original shooting schedule, that wasn't how it was, and somehow they had to make certain adjustments. So I arrived back to the Bay Area a couple of days before we go on the set, and they said, "Oh, Joan, do you mind? We really do have to change, so you have to do the scene first." Um, I felt I could, um, and so we did that. But still, it would take you a couple of days to really get into the part, and I was a little concerned because I can't afford, or the film can't afford for me to not be in the right place for this important scene, and especially when you play a supporting role, you have to grasp every second of your screen time and make sure that every second you're giving the character something. So, but it was a really good environment. It's a good set, and on that first day, I already felt that Sean, who has lived with the script for 7 years before filming, he knew what he wanted. And so first thing I did, I was like, Joan, you just need to trust him and just do what you do and see if this is what he was envisioning. Um, it came out pretty naturally. And Isaac and I think when we met, we already right. Um, felt right. The first thing he said was like, "Oh, Joan, you're older than my mom." I said, "Yeah, I am older than your mom." But after that, we we kind of it just felt really natural. The kind of chemistry sometimes on screen you either have it or you don't have it. If you cast wrong, then you might miss it. It's not something you need a long time to build. Of course, like as we go on, we get more and more comfortable. So on that first day, it felt right. It felt I could talk to him like I was talking to my kid. And so from the first day, I felt, Sean was able to just gently a nudge this way or a nudge that way, not getting my way at all, just slight nudges. And from that first day on, I felt like, okay, we're going to be fine, that I could trust him. It's so important for me, like to feel like you could trust your director, and then you can fully give yourself to your director. A few times in my career that I didn't have that, it's like, oh, what do I do? I need to protect myself, and that would be the worst thing on the set of for a film actress. Um, So I felt very fortunate. I know that I could trust him. I always felt like, it gives me so much pleasure if I could truly please my director.
And within that scene, I wanted to also ask you about just filming the moment where everything comes to a head, because there's a moment where your character raises her hand. They've both been saying things back and forth. And when she raises her hand, she obviously catches it, stops herself, but it seems like something that she's so surprised by. You can tell this hasn't happened before and it's the first time. And so what was important to you in that moment of everything that she's suddenly thinking and processing?
I think the worst thing my son could have said to me was that, he wished he was raised by his father. And his father was one bitterness and pain, the biggest ache, I think, in my character, that I knew I was in a way abandoned. I knew, I suspect that there is something else going on in Taiwan, that he really doesn't come home, not for children's graduation, not to send her daughter to college. And and just that's a sore spot that my son touched. And I felt so wronged, and all that ache. um there were takes that I would go a lot more cheerful, but in the end, I think all the emotions that I poured into the part, because I do relate to her. Not that I have a bad husband, but just that being an immigrant mother trying to bring up American children, I relate to that. In the end, all the takes that Sean picked were more restrained, and I appreciate that, because it does give the mom a, a greater forbearance, the kind of equanimity, quiet strength, restrained more. You still feel it inside her. And so that was the great choice that Sean made in the editing room. But that feeling, that was the only chance that I have to express that side of her, is that she was an abandoned wife, that she was not loved. Um, she was not loved. And in the end, she knows that her children really love her. Um, but there are often times in her life she felt she wasn't loved or appreciated.
And it's so interesting what you were describing with her husband is the sore spot and the thing that can get her in that way, because it also carries over into the conflict with Nai, because she's always being criticized. And then there's that moment of, if he was here, then it would be a home. And I loved her response of, I'm the one that makes this a home for our family. But was it very similar for you in terms of the relationship with Nai, that a lot of the hurt also comes from her relationship with her husband there as well?
I think so. I think so. Very much so. I imagined that was the first time that I actually gathered courage or had enough frustration and anger to actually utter it. I think she probably never actually said that. So finally, she said that it's me, it's me, it's not him that's making this family work. Um, it's all bottled up pain and frustration, um, needing to be seen. Like I love this family, I work for this family, and that was, yeah, like I said, I think, each scene, a little line here, little line there, or just a look, is to make this character more multifaceted, even though not a lot of screen time. Yeah.
I mean, with what you were describing about just wanting to be seen and the way that one small look can do so much. I loved the moment when Chris has some of his friends over and one of them suddenly says, "Oh, you painted that? That's great. I love your paintings." And you see what it means to her in that moment. Um, and even just having her son see her as a complex human being towards the end of the film, what did you want it to feel like and mean for her to have these little moments where someone is looking at her and they're seeing her as a very real person?
I felt it because the line I said, "Oh, you noticed."
Yeah.
I added that line. Yeah, because that's how I felt. That joy that finally someone actually sees her work, and so unexpected from a bunch of strange boys. When I first saw them, I was a little startled because these were not his usual friends. Um, but I loved that moment.
I loved it so much too. And also in going back to what you were talking about the first day in filming with that scene with Isaac, it sounds like there wasn't really an opportunity timing wise to have rehearsals before filming. And so I was interested in once you were filming this shoot and playing this character in reflection, what felt like the most important work that you'd done before filming in terms of the preparation work that you did on building her?
I think my kind of accumulation emotionally about being a mother and all my regrets, mistakes that I've made, and the kind of, I think it's just a fierce love for your children that may not have been felt by them. So all this sort of life experience prepared me. Um, and I did on my own think a great deal about how to, in each scene, give her a little different facet. And that was the only scene that she really blew up. Um, the the only chance to express that part of her life. Um, it just seemed natural and easy with Isaac. Um, yeah, he was being mean, but he was a kid and he was innocent, and it just we felt right into it.
It's so great. And, going back to as well what you were talking about at the beginning, where you had Sean's mom record voice notes and so you could listen to it. Um, you know, it's such a personal film that he's made, but he's also talked about it's not a biography through and
No,
through.
yeah.
So, did you find, especially as filming went on, that there was this real space to have studied her and listened to her and looked at who she was, but also a lot of freedom and space to create your own identity for her and who you felt she was?
Yeah, I felt that it's a combination. To study her is, in a way, a fun exercise,
Yeah.
so that I can possibly do something different from than if I haven't met her, right? So um, we do believe that we contain multitudes. There is always this and that we haven't expressed yet in works or in our own lives. Um, I mean, a lot of it is me too. The emotions that I felt um, was from my own experience. Um, and also, we the thing is that we have certain designs for our characters, always,
Mhm.
that what was she going through here interiorly that we prepare. We have designs, but in the end, especially working with non-actors, first-time actors, um, the one important thing for me was to really wipe away all trace of performance and just to be, because at their best, when they're not actors at all, when they're relaxed, they're the most authentic. And so you can stand out in there. And so that was also a challenge, that you need to be just as lived in, down to earth, and real, basically. I think that was something that I watched for when I was performing with them.
And that's such an interesting point about the idea of trying to wipe away any sense of a performance, because it also goes back to Sean's style as a director and having come from a documentary background. And I was curious about some of the unique aspects in the way that you felt he directed you and got that from you, especially because you've also directed yourself as well.
Um, he's very gentle. He's gentle and sure. So, you know, there are times he would say like, "Oh, maybe we can try this. I got this. Do you want to try that?" And so a little bit a different way of delivering, but not for once that he felt that I was being a movie star, or I was performing. Um, this whole environment on the set, and also just being with the rest of the cast, I talked with the grandma a great deal also. It just made you feel like you're part of it, that you know the producers, the director, and everybody on the set was really feeling like a big family, because it's a limited crew. It's not a full crew in a lot of movies, 100, 200 people. It's a limited crew. And everyone did feel a very limited and very young crew. And I also saw that, he could trust his producers, who are always looking out on the monitor also. They exchange ideas. And so there is a safety net there, that I feel pretty free. Just I feel I could just be free.
I love hearing all these details about it. It's such a rich performance. So congratulations on the movie. And thank you so much, Joan. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much. Good to talk to you.